You're fucking fired.
Welcome to how to screw up a project by using materials with which you are not familiar, with your host, Stu Brenner. Damn near screwed the pooch on this one, but we're gonna snatch victory out of the jaws of defeat by utterly changing my entire process. So let's get started right after a word from these sponsors. This instructional video is brought to you by Dog Farts. It's a rainy day here in Arlington, South Dakota, population 915. It's 42 degrees out. It's been raining off and on all day since morning. And yesterday, last night, we had all sorts of wind rocking and rolling the trailer. It's a nice little town, and it really is small town America here. They've got a fabulous little RV park here. If you like trains at 3 a.m. that go on for about, seems to be about 17-mile long freight train, and trucks hitting the Jake brake as they come around the curve coming through town, this might be the place for you. Yeah, it's a little bit noisy, but hey, I sleep in truck stops. I sleep on the side of the road. There's no telling wherever I'm going to camp for a night. And noise happens when you're RVing, so you get used to the noise. I mean, I don't sleep anyway. I'm a raging insomniac. So if the train goes by 3 a.m., I guarantee you I was awake already. But it just is what it is. And for $10 a night, it's a nice place to hang out for a while. What else can I tell you? Well, screwed up. I used yonder spray clear coat, which I thought was lacquer. It's not lacquer, it is an enamel. And I'm used to using spray lacquers, and I'm used to varnishing with shellac, not with enamel. So I sprayed on just a terrible coat of clear coat here. So what I'm doing is sanding it off. Not quite all the way off. I'm just sanding to remove like runs and drips that I had, and a lot of orange peel, a little bit of alligator skin on it. It was just really not a great finish. Mea culpa. I bought the wrong stuff I wasn't familiar with, and then proceeded to try to lay it down on a very important project. But fortunately, everything we can mess up, we can fix generally. So we are wet sanding with this 220 grit. It's not wet or dry paper, but it's holding up very well in the water. And then we're using a green Scotch-Brite pad then to buff up the finish a little bit. After we get this buffed up and nice and smooth, then I'm going to lay over a coat of the stain, and that will cover little spots here where I have abraded through the finish. Abraded? Why couldn't you just said sanded? Because that's what happened. You sanded all the way down to bare wood. Abraded through the finish. You can see the white along here and over here, and this area here as a test, I already overlaid the stain last night and then give it a good wipe down with a rag, and you can see that it's a much nicer, much glossier, smoother base to then proceed laying in a top coat with which I am way more familiar, and we're going to buy shellac And we're going to buy denatured alcohol, some steel wool, and we're going to buy some wet sanding paper. This is the process I used to use all the time with great results, and it's called spit coating. What spit coating is you take your shellac, that's the stuff in my right hand, and you take your denatured alcohol, that's what's in the left hand here, and you mix it 3 parts denatured alcohol to 1 part of shellac. What that does is it creates an extremely thin finish that when you put it on, when you're done, it looks like you didn't put anything on. The benefit of this, it's thinned with denatured alcohol, which evaporates very quickly, and you can go thin coat, wait 10-15 minutes, thin coat, 15 minutes, coat. I'll go maybe 4 or 5 spit coats of the shellac, and then I will do a sanding. Maybe with the wet or dry. Probably I will do that with the steel wool. It depends on how that all came out. The sanding will pull up, it will even it out. It'll pull up any kind of like little particles that may have been in there. It'll smooth that all out for me then to go and lay another 4 or 5, 6, however many spit coats down. And when I'm done, I'll probably have somewhere in the range of 24 or so, probably more, because when I get into this, I just keep going until it's really nice. So let's say 24 or more spit coats of shellac on here with 4 or 5 sandings in between, and then we go on to the process then of doing a wet sand with grades of sandpaper, 400 up to 1200 grit sandpapers, and then you buff that out with quadruple aught steel wool, which is extremely fine. And then finally, after that, a nice wax finish on it to harden the coat up and protect it. If you didn't know what shellac is, what do you see? Kasha woke up and she's looking out the windows. Are you looking at the ducks? Kasha has no interest in the ducks whatsoever. We walk past them every day, and every day she looks at them, she goes, yeah, ducks, that's a job for a Labrador, I'm not chasing them. And she's just very laissez-faire about the whole thing. It's a good girl. After we wax it, what we have is a finished frame, and then I'm going to, of course, glaze it, install the photograph, and we will be done. So, let's get to work on some wet sanding. The last piece of it that I have to do is this edge, which I had started, and then I said, hey, let's make a video about wet sanding because it's raining outside and 42 degrees. I got all the heaters on in the house trying to keep this place warm. I don't know if you ever lived in an RV, folks, and here's where the RV stuff of the RV channel I'm doing comes in. I don't know if you ever lived in an RV, but they're very, very difficult to heat and to cool. Why? Because the walls are extremely thin and they're not very well insulated, and the windows are single pane. You can get dual pane glass in an RV if you pay a lot of money for them. And this being my first RV, I did not go hog wild on the specifications because I wanted a decent, livable space for about $30,000, and that's what I paid for Moby Dick. 30 grand out the door with the taxes and everything else included, because I am a great negotiator and they were sitting on this unit for a long time. So it turned out to be a deal. And I'm happy with it. If you ask me my general opinion of the experience of living in this particular unit, this is an open range RV. They asked me the model number at the DMV so I could finally get my plates, and that's another story. We'll talk about that PA temp tag someday. So they asked me for the model number on the thing, and I tell them it's a 3X349 RLS. And they said, "What? Doesn't it have a name?" I said, "Nope, it's a 3X349 RLS." And I don't know how Open Range does their naming. I would have called it something completely different that, you know, people can relate to. But that's what it is. For a 36-foot fifth wheel RV with 3 slides, that's what the 3X is in the name. For $30,000, it was a good deal. It was a fair trade in my book. I'm sure they made a little money, and I ended up with a satisfactory RV for my purposes. For my purposes, this is great. Yeah, the decor is an insult to the eyes. I think this is done in mid-century man cave. I just haven't gotten around to redecorating. Is really what it is. It looks like brown exploded in here, because you've got every color of brown that's imaginable, and that's what they decorated with. To me, it's extremely depressing. You know, as far as what you want to live in, you don't want to live in every room being brown. So over time, I'm going to, I'm sure, redecorate this thing and do something not wild and crazy, but tasteful and different that you don't see in an RV. I'm thinking of going all mid-century modern and get all the appropriate furnishings from that time frame, from all of the appropriate architects of the time, because the stuff's knocked off like crazy. What I'm trying to say is, we're not buying originals here. We're buying current made knockoff shit that you can buy from Target. But it looks like mid-century modern, and that's what the vibe I want to go with, which is why I have this geometric monochrome rug. Which, by the way, when you finish wood, make sure not to roll up your good rug and spill black stain on it. But kidneys, folks, I was thinking ahead, and that's why I bought a rug with black in it and only use black stain, because this way, if I have an accident, I've got a 30% chance of my stain landing on a black spot on the carpet, and hey, no worries. So that was the 220 grit sandpaper, which, as you noticed, I kept wetting and going over my surface here, and the wetness keeps the enamel from clogging the sandpaper, and it lubricates your work. So now we've got the green Scotch Brite, and we're going to do the same thing and just kind of lightly go over this edge with the green Scotch Brite. Got to go to town. Town in this case is the town of Brookings, and Brookings is a 40-minute drive away. So that's where the Walmart is, and that's where the Home Depot is, and that's where you go when you need something that you can't get from the little grocery store, which is a short walk away. Very convenient. You walk the dog over there, and the dog is welcome. And you can buy a few groceries. But I'm not going to be able to get the finishing supplies that this project so richly deserves locally here in Arlington, so I have to go to Brookings for it. So what we're going to do now, let the water dry, go to Home Depot, return, take a look at this one more time. I got some spots I want to touch up with a little bit of paper. I'll do that with the new stuff I buy. And I'm going to lay down another coat of stain, which, as you can see here, actually it doesn't look too half bad. With which side's got the stain on it? It doesn't look too half bad just with this stain rubbed in here, but wait till you see what we do with the shellac, folks, because we're gonna take a shellacking in the next episode. By the way, if you have not done so quite yet, please leave me a comment. If you're a woodworker, leave me a comment about my process. Maybe you've got a great idea for me. If you're an RVer, check in with me and let's talk about RV stuff. If you love dogs, there's my dog. And we can talk about Kasha. Well, I'm going to load up into the truck right now and go to Brookings for wood finishing supplies. So leave me a comment, please. Hit the thumbs up, because that'll really help me. And there's a bell icon also, that if you want updates from the channel, you want to know when the next exciting episode is coming out, that would help me greatly as well, because every time you click something on social media, that person gets whiz-banged up into the algorithm, and the computers start touching base in outer space, and their popularity grows. And if I'm going to become a millionaire on YouTube, I need you to click some stuff and share with friends, like, subscribe, and share my videos, because that is going to make me a social media magnate. Probably not. Let's go to town, baby.